There are a ton of hero changes that are going to be added to the game before too long, and Blizzard has given us a ton of information about when they are coming, what they are, and what heroes will be hit. So we're going to break it all down, and let's jump right in. Now, first off, we do got to talk about Moira, and Moira got a scrapped damage orb rework that was going to reveal enemies every single time she did damage to them. But Blizzard actually just scrapped this because it didn't line up with how they envisioned Moira going forward and where she actually fits as a hero. Now, they also stated that they're looking to add utility to Moira's kit. So one of the big complaints about Moira right now is that Moira has two things that she could do. She can heal and she can damage. And this doesn't really seem like it's that different from other supports, but it really is. When you think of things like Nade, Discord, Resurrect, Speed Boost, Suzu, I mean, every single freaking agent in the supporting roster has utility that provides value outside of just healing and damage, and that's all Moira has. So it looks like they want to actually make it so she has a bit of utility. I don't know if you would overtune the character if you added utility on top of her existing kit, but we'll have to wait and see how they balance it. Let me know down below what kind of piece of utility you think Moira should have. Next off, they directly talk about Genji, and Genji is kind of the punching bag for Blizzard, at least that's how it seems, but Blizzard doesn't seem to think so. They said this, that Genji is not underpowered, but they clarified that they might have to make changes to make Genji feel more impactful, so Genji might receive changes in the future regardless of their perceived power level. Now, once again, Blizzard does this thing where they look at the stats, or they talk about the stats of a hero, their win rates and pick rates across ranks, but they don't provide those things to us. We don't have any transparency. They're just like, hey, this character that you think is weak, we don't think it's weak based on our stats. We're not going to show you them. Just take our word for it. Now, I've played Genji quite a bit in Overwatch 2. I played it quite a bit in Overwatch 1. And I think one of the biggest problems right now with Genji is that there's far too much power in his ultimate and ultimate combos like Nano Blade, and far too little power in his neutral game, which is just his regular dash in, his regular executes, his regular play. And I think some combination about buffing his neutral, nerfing his ultimate, and then perhaps making it so some of his power is stored behind like the old school combos that he had to do, which was the dash 180 alternate fire melee, which was a fast combo that he could do in the past. It was hard to execute, and what this does is it makes it so Genji has even a higher skill ceiling, because one of the problems right now is that Genji is actually decent when players are making all these mistakes, but as you climb the ranks, he's awful. He becomes worse and worse and worse, and a character that you would want to shine in the highest ranks to play is just almost unplayable a lot of the time. So I think they could do that and address that in a lot of different ways. But maybe you don't think Genji needs anything at all. Let me know what you would do to Genji and why down below. Now, speaking of DPS, Widowmaker is a character that might be getting changes before too long. They said no Widowmaker changes for now, but the devs are monitoring Widowmaker in Overwatch 2. The team has discussed placing more cover on maps where Widowmaker is most powerful, but they're also considering other options. I do think that there's a really polarizing meta, almost extremely so, on some of these sniper maps where Widowmaker's dominant, especially as you climb to like Masters Plus. Widowmaker just becomes like a necessity, and if you don't have a Widowmaker on your team, you're way more likely to lose most of the time on these maps, so I think extra cover could be good, or you could just like slightly decrease the power level of some of these. I'm not entirely sure the route they should go in, but as we get further and further into a map-based meta, which is a good thing, by the way, it creates diversity, I think it's cool that they could do slight changes to maps and actually balance heroes, which is something that I felt like wasn't really the case before, and that's just cool to think about. Now, there's also made primary fire changes, and these changes are almost done. They're almost going to be put into live. We don't know whether that's going to be the mid-season patch or the next season patch or whatever the case may be, but they clarified and said, you're not going to freeze another hero entirely, but you'll build up to a bigger movement of that slow. So it looks like instead of just having like a default slow right off the bat, maybe it will start with slowing them less, but the longer you freeze someone, the more and more like ice will build up on them. I'm sure that there's a cool animation, and then they will be like going snail's pace. And this is kind of cool for, you know, maybe countering characters like Wrecking Ball or something like that. And also punishing more than just the damage for characters that want to play in, you know, Mei's effective range for too long. I mean, that's the punishment for playing right next to a Mei. That's the strength of Mei. So it seems interesting. I don't necessarily think that Mei needs any buffs. She's really, really strong right now. But maybe they're like changing this and then nerfing something else. We'll have to wait and see. Now, Sombra's rework is in the works, but it's gonna be a while away. Sombra is going to be a bit more lethal, but she's going to be coming with some other things and drawbacks of some of her escapability. So it looks like they're going to make her, more deadly, something like Tracer, but less escapability. So maybe there's going to be limits to her teleport or even limits to her invis. I think that Sombra is a weird character where her identity is cool, her design is cool, but the kit execution is a little weird. Perma invis, having the ability to stay in invis and hack non-stop, having an uptime problem where you just are sometimes out of the fight for too long. There's a lot of little things that I think make the character feel a bit clunky and not fun to play with or against. And I definitely think they could do small adjustments to make things better for everyone. So we'll wait and see what those are. But we do got to talk about Roadhog, the character that basically ruined season 3, or at least made it really, really miserable for some people. They removed his one-shot combo, but they said in the future they were going to do much bigger reworks to the character, but they said it was going to be a ways off. Well, it looks like it's still going to be a ways off. They said there's a component with Roadhog where there's a little selfish aspect. The team is deciding how transformative they want to be. And I'm not gonna lie, the kind of key defining factor of Roadhog that I always think about is selfish. I kind of like how they're playing into that. Characters like Zarya, characters like Diva, it's all about like protecting and helping and enabling your team and all this stuff. But Roadhog, it makes sense, from a lore perspective, from a design perspective, to have a tank that doesn't even care about his team. Like, he's like, I'm gonna go do things outside of my team, in spite of my team. And I kind of like that. We'll have to see what that actually looks like. And they said transformative, which is an interesting word. So that means that there could be small changes to this character kind of in the works, or it could be a much bigger one. They haven't decided yet how different new Roadhog is going to be from old Roadhog. We might be getting a tank that is kind of similar, but it just feels like a completely different tank. We'll wait and see. Now, of course, we do got to talk about Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver has already gotten a ton of changes before Lifeweaver is even in comp. The changes to the controls is a big one because the controls were super, super clunky. Like, I played Lifeweaver once and I was like, this feels gross. I don't want to optimize this right now. So I just stopped playing Lifeweaver, period. And then on top of that, we've already seen changes to the heal, buffs to the damage, a shortened spread. There's just a lot of different things that we're already seeing with Lifeweaver before they even come out to comp, because he was a bit clunky and underpowered. But one of the things that I had concerns about was Lifeweaver's hitbox, and they said that it takes quite a lot of work depending on what approach they take, so they're not going to change the hitbox yet, although it probably is going to be coming down the line. It's being discussed, but I guess because of the animations and the abilities around the animations and the interactions with all the characters, there's more to it than just like shrink character hitbox by 1, whatever the case may be. So unfortunately, for a while, we're gonna have really bulky Lifeweaver, just like huge Lifeweaver. Now, the only thing I'm scared about is that hitboxes can have such a huge effect over how strong a character is. It seems like it doesn't matter that much, but just think about like Kiriko's hitbox and how much value that gives Kiriko because of how freaking small she is. She actually dodges a lot of damage automatically, and it plays into the rest of their kit. So like, you have a character on the opposite end of the spectrum with a huge freaking hitbox. If they say, oh, statistically my character is underperforming, and they buff this character like a lot, and then they reduce the hitbox later, then it could like super buff the character. So yeah, we'll see. But honestly, let me know which of these changes you're most excited about, and what change would you introduce if you could buff or nerf any hero in the game. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. Smash that like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.